Hello world. It's been a while since I've talked to you guys. I've been really reflecting lately and really going through some difficult healing, I guess you could call it. So I've been kind of quiet and I've been kind of processing and making sure you know that what I share is beneficial for you guys as well as beneficial for myself, and I'm not just sharing whatever. I want to make sure that this is teaching and this is encouraging, this is uplifting, and this is challenging as well. And I want to make sure that this is the Lord's voice that you are hearing and not just me rambling. So I guess what I want to share with you is kind of what's been going on the past couple of days and all that the Lord has been teaching me. It started a few days ago, and I'm just really learning how to just sit and really absorb and really see Jesus in new ways. I have actually now accessed a brand new communication relationship aspect with Jesus that I had no idea was even available to me until it was shown in person, per se. So now Jesus and I are on a whole new level. I now see him and can hang out with him, and I actually know what it's like to actually just sit and just be present. And I know Jesus is always present, but for myself to just be able to be content to just lay there and hang with Jesus, that's kind of a new thing for me. I've always been busy, or I've been doing things, or unknown to myself, even though I don't believe in the whole works for Jesus deal. I have, in a sense, living in this concept, in this aspect that I must do something. I must always be doing something, must always be communicating or reacting or behaving in a certain manner or form that would be pleasing to him. Well, hello world. You don't need to please God. He loves you as you are. And I'm learning that slowly. I'm learning how to just sit and be okay. And I'm learning how to sit and just be present. And I'm learning that, there's joy in that. There's beauty and there's peace in that. And I'm at a whole different level than I was just a couple days ago. And it kind of constantly seems like I'm constantly going up this ladder that I didn't even know was right here. I'm just climbing it up, and I'm seeing new sights. I'm feeling things and seeing things and hearing things and going whole different levels that I didn't even know were accessible per se, just because of the way I grew up and the way I concepted what love and being cared for was perceived. Based on my perceptions of that, I therefore took Jesus into that aspect as well, and therefore, that's how I perceived him. The way I grew up, the experiences I've gone through, they all gave me this image of what it looks like to be loved and to love back. And I found out a couple days ago that that's completely false. That right there is garbage and lies from the devil. Absolute trash, technically. So I just need to cast that away. So if you're holding on to things that are absolutely bonkers, don't make sense, but that's the way you perceive it, that's lies from the devil. I will speak to my own, even though they are hard to voice, but I think it's something I think a lot of girls, actually, not just myself, but I think a lot of girls have this concept of what love looks like, especially when you come from difficult upbringings and different experiences that have led you to believe this. But I really perceive love to be, in a sense, fear-based or sexual-based. And that sounds really weird, but when you put those two together, that's a very negative concept of who God is and what he even is about. And unknowns to me, I was seeing Jesus through those eyes, through that perception, and felt like it was I need to do this, I need to listen, I need to obey, or Jesus is going to give me a smackdown. Now, I don't fear Jesus. I have a holy fear. Everyone should have a holy fear of Jesus. He is great and powerful, and he is amazing and kind and good too. But this aspect of fear, Jesus isn't going to smack you. Jesus isn't going to punish you. He's not going to strike you with a lightning bolt. I grew up in a very German-based culture, which, if anyone knows, the Grimm fairy tales, that's what, that whole strike the fear in the child, and the child will be raised upright in the Christian way. I was raised really strongly in that. I was not raised Mennonite or Amish per se, but I do have some Swiss Mennonite background. So, in that sense, that culture seeped into my family. And so for my mom's side, and then for my dad's side, it was a whole different concept. But still, those two warring ends end up having me pretty much, between the Lutheran side and the Swiss German Mennonite side of belief systems, I had a very fear-based structure on Christianity. I read the Bible as if God was going to smote me if I had read it wrong, I literally will never forget the moment where I was mad at Jesus and I was just marking things in my Bible and I got called out on that. And I was like, oh crap, God's going to strike me dead in that moment. Now, he's not going to do that. But as a child, and you get that feeling like, I didn't agree with that, Lord, but please don't hurt me, kind of thing. It seems crazy. But that's really kind of the culture I grew up in. And if you think about it, where the belief systems that we are raised into, the belief systems that are brought through our cultures and through our background, that all seeps into who we are today. And the other side is just because of the experiences I've gone through. And that's been a build on continuously throughout my life, leading up to those two being the same constructs. Absolute garbage, like I said. Cast them out. But I'm slowly learning that I don't have to rely on Jesus or see Jesus that way. And I've always had a special connection with Jesus. I've always loved him. I've always felt this very sweet best friend kind of aspect that was completely separate from that. But when it came to following him and responding to him, those two aspects came into play. And not only did they come into play in my Christian faith, but they came into play in my reality, and my ultimate reality of now. How someone talked to me, how someone reacted to me, how someone, touched me. It all was centered around those two factors. And that's not a healthy way to live. That's a very dangerous way to live. And that's how I got into so many situations growing up, or later on, per se, because I didn't have a healthy balance or healthy understanding. But Jesus is slowly working on my heart. And this past Sunday, I did something that I did not know actually was possible. I went to bed angry, but not at Jesus. I was so ticked off at the enemy. And there was no harm in going to bed angry at him, but that was at such emotional place that thankfully the Lord put me to sleep. He is good about that. When you are such an emotional high, sometimes the Lord just needs to just knock you out because you can be very dangerous to yourself in that moment. And I had reached that aspect again, and that was actually very terrifying. So I'm thankful the Lord put me out. But I woke up that morning very, very, very angry. And I've felt a lot of anger before, and I felt a lot of different emotions. But this was pure, like, I am ready to battle angry. So I woke up, and I armed myself. I was listening to, I believe it was 1 John, or it was, New Testament John. But it was John something. And I was listening to it like 3 or 4 times that morning. I dressed as if I was going to war. Now, what do you mean by that? It means that I didn't put on a pretty little dress to go to church. This is the first time church opened. I was dressed to go to war. I was going to dress what I could do. And the only way to go to war for me is worship. So I dressed to worship the best I could. And I dressed to go to war, not go to church. There's different concepts. But I really believe and really fully live into this idea and aspect now since this past Sunday that we should not be getting dressed all cute and pretty and showing off for church. We need to dress as if we're going to war. We need to wake up and say, watch out, enemy. I'm going to church for war. I'm going to meet you there and I'm going to battle you out. Because as soon as that worship music turned on when I got to church, I was on that floor and I was worshiping. And it was not worship, it was battling. My worship has become my weapon against the enemy. And I have no other way really to fight him than my worship. So I warred with him. And when I was so exhausted and the music kind of changed from a fast-paced, crazy, hyped up, tonal sound to calming, beautiful, serene, Jesus put me on that ground in an instant. And you know what he did? He held me there. Now, I've never been pushed down by Jesus before, but I laid there in tears as Jesus was pushing me further and further into the ground, telling me I don't need to fight anymore. And he wasn't saying I didn't need to fight the enemy, but he was telling me I did not need to fight, everything I've been doing by myself. I don't need to do it alone. And in that instant, I was being pushed down into this carpet, basically, I was still warring within myself. But Jesus took that away in that instant. And as soon as I let that go, Jesus grabbed my hands and he just laid there beside me and just held me. And I've never had that experience before in my life. Of just simply being okay to be held. I mean, he's not physically there, but in my spiritual eye and in my spiritual sense, believe me, I felt him there. I saw him there. He was totally there. There's a lot happening in that worship, but it was just me and Jesus, and we went to war. And I got to wage war against the enemy and work out my feelings of anger and frustration and pain. Because when you wake up suddenly and you find your whole life has been marred into two different categories of lies, that's how you see people, that's how you treat people, that's how you allow them to treat you. You are angry, you are hurt, you are in pain. And Jesus is okay taking you to that battle station front to battle out against the enemy. But he's also not going to just keep you there. He's going to take you into his arms and he's going to hold you and he's going to tell you don't need to fight anymore. He's got you now. Because when you are too weary to fight, he's going to pick you up and he's going to carry you until you are strong enough again to get on that ground and war some more. My life has not been the same since then. My life has changed drastically since Sunday. And that's only been a couple days. Now today was a horrible day. Different story. I still found Jesus. I still saw his beauty. But it was a horrible day. But that's okay. We're going to have those. But Sunday something switched and changed in me. And I felt it. And that night as I went to a different worship center and worshiped Jesus, I was able to access and enter into a space that was not physically possible before. Because I'd surrendered myself to Jesus, because I'd accepted that these were lies and I needed to replace them with something good and holy and matrimonial for Jesus alone, I was able to walk into a worship space so and loved and embraced and immersed into a Heavenly Father that loves and adores me, that I worshiped in the most freeing, newest, fire-burning way possible. And I don't want to go into details because that's for Jesus and I and maybe for those that are close to me. Because, you may not fully comprehend, worship. You may not fully comprehend church at this moment. And I don't want to speak of things that kind of push you back and be like, well, it's a little bit too far out for my thinking. So I want to be considerate and I want to be honest. But I entered a whole new way of worship. I entered a whole new way of relationship and communication with those around me. And I found out I can stand my ground and I don't need to live in those two different spheres. Now, I still struggle with them. I still struggle with anxiety. I still struggle with fears. But now I have a Lord and Savior who I just have to hold my hand out, and he's going to hold my hand, and he's going to walk me across those fiery coals, He's going to walk me across that battleground. I don't have to do it alone. I don't have to imagine myself with Jesus there because he's right there holding my hand now. And when I grow too tired, he's there to pick me up and carry me. That's the Jesus we have. That's the Jesus we love. That's freedom. There was such a beautiful quote tonight in one of the movies I watched. And it was the fact that Freedom is courage. Courage is freedom. Boldness is freedom. But more than that, freedom is the ability to be yourself. I am so thankful for the people that the Lord has put in my life recently. One in particular that has just altered my whole reality and is showing me a whole different kind of world. But I'm really stepping into this aspect of freedom and what it is to be like myself. You know, I am learning basically each day a new part of myself. It's kind of like Christmas and a package that's in front of me, and it's always been there, but it's like, I get to open this. What about me do I not know? I'm finding so much about myself. Some of it's just like, oh, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Other parts are like, cool, I'm like this. I can think like this. You know, I can be like this. I'm so used to being on a noose and a leash that, well, I'm learning how to be free. There is no reins. There are no more leashes. Now, I don't know if that'll scare people away because I can be a lot. I know that. I have a lot personality. There's a lot there. I know that. Very complex, I guess is the word for it. But I know that Jesus loves me. And out of all those times when no one else could in those moments, Jesus always loved me. Only I never could see it, and I could never feel it as purely and as fully as I feel it and see it now. It is such an amazing thing to just be able to just sit and let him hold my hand and lean into him and just listen to worship music together in peaceful contentment. I don't think I even concepted what the word contentment meant until this past Sunday. I'm comprehending what joy is, but joy within contentment. Just to be able to just be still. Like people talk about sitting for like 3 or 4 hours with Jesus. That was like a crazy reality I cannot comprehend. And now it's like, yeah, let's do it, Jesus. Let's go sit for 3 or 4 hours. And that's what I've been doing practically every day. When I can't handle the world, just kind of curl up and hang out with Jesus. And it's pretty sweet, you know? I know he's here, and I know he's here in the rough days. I know he's here in the good days. And he's a good God. He's a good, loving Father. And we need to keep that in our forefront. We need to trust. We need to learn how to fall into Jesus. And we need to learn how to give ourselves fully and freely and completely to him, so we can give us the most absolute freedom to be ourselves and for others around us to see us as ourselves. I know that I am complex, and I know I can be a lot. But I know that those around me would rather see me as myself than as who I was as a very cautious, scared, shy, nervous individual are just a few of the negative traits I've been carrying. But even though it's scary to step out and think, how are they going to react when I show this side of myself? Or when I discover this new thing about myself? I think it's even scarier to think that I was XYZ before, and that's what they were seeing. But now I'm ABC over here, and now that's what they're seeing. Now they're seeing who I truly am. Now they're starting to see my personality. And I don't know, I just get this image when I think about it. And I a lot of times think in this aspect, I just love animals so much. But a lot of times I just think of, you know, when you get a rescue dog and it's been severely traumatized and it's very scared, it's going to find a corner and it's going to hide. And it's going to react if you put your hands near it. It's going to bite you. You know, it's going to snarl. It's going to act all tough and it's going to stay in that corner. But you know, as time goes on, and you gently approach it, you put food out, you be patient, you be kind, you extend a kind touch, that dog's going to soon be won over. And it might take weeks, it may take months, it might even take years, but that animal's going to eventually be won over and is eventually going to learn to trust and to love and be loved. And I know even that's not a perfect image, but I honestly feel like that's kind of my analogy for where I'm at. You know, I'm over here in this corner ready to run, ready to fight. And Jesus is out here giving little tidbits, gently coaxing me out of this corner, telling me, hey, it's okay. You know, you don't need to live like this anymore. Now, it's a weird analogy, maybe. But for me, it makes a lot of sense. I also think of, you know, when you have a horse, you know, kind of the same concept kind of thing. I love both of those so much, and all the time I try to see through those eyes, because when I see animals like that and see people then react harshly or aggressively or dominance towards them, what happens? They shy back, they get more afraid, and they don't do so well. But when you extend compassion and trust and kindness, a whole different reaction. I've seen it through my own rescue dog. Just watching her blossom over the years has been incredible. Just watching her get happy about a simple thing like a walk. It's just a miracle compared to how scared she was when I first got her and I couldn't even turn the stove on. You know, she'd run and cower and hide. Like, what has she gone through that even the stove clicking on would cause her to hide? I don't know. I got her as an older dog. But it just makes you think that, you know, if you start thinking and seeing people who've gone through hard things more in that concept, I think we'd have a lot more compassion and understanding. It's easy to look at a terrified animal and feel compassion, but we don't always see the fear and the terror in someone else's eyes, and we don't feel that same compassion. And I really feel in my heart that God is calling me to work with women who've been through similar things, who are those terrified, scared animals in the corner, you know, who've gone through hell and back. I really feel more and more that the Lord is calling me towards them and is going to bring about a way for me to connect and really work with them and show them that the world is a wonderful place. It's safe and Jesus is good. And I don't know what it looks like, but I know that Jesus is amazing. He cares. And so if any woman who's gone through hard things like I've been through, you know, I encourage you, honestly, to find those right people that are going to point you to the right Jesus, that are going to point you to compassion and gentleness, who are going to show you that it's okay, that you're safe and that you're cared for. And even if that's a foreign concept right now, that's okay. Embrace where you're at and just take baby steps. There's no harm in taking baby steps. I have a brand new ladder I'm traversing, but I'm not scaling that ladder. I am testing each rung carefully. But I'm going to get up there. And I'm going to succeed, you know. I know that now. There's a lot of uncertainties in life. But we have a good God. And we have a loving Father. And that's what it comes down to. So I hope that this was really encouraging for you. And I hope that it gives you hope. And for those of you that are struggling, you're not alone. You are not alone. And if you need someone to reach out to, please, please send me a message. I'm here for you. I'm here for all of you. World, you're not alone. You are not alone. I want you to know that. No matter where you're at, it's okay where you're at. Be okay where you're at, but you don't have to stay there. That's what it comes down to. Alright, well, I'm going to leave you, and I want you guys to have a wonderful night. I love you, world. Bye. Bridget Hugs.